Hey everyone, Shin here. So, I finally get to spill the beans. I finally get to tell you guys about all the stuff I got to check out in Bellevue. There's a lot of cool stuff here. There's a lot of cool stuff. First, I want to mention that this is not actually footage from my point of view. This was a dev that was taking kind of B-roll footage alongside us. What they said initially is, we don't want you guys taking any footage for the first demo session. We just want you guys to jump in, mess around, play with things, and experience it for the first time without worrying about anything else. And so none of us actually recorded any footage of this video. It was just this one dev. You will probably see me running around this dev in the video. I tagged myself as Shinryuku in the demo just so people could tell who I was. A lot of the people who were there did the same thing. Like, you got Blue did it, Donna did it, Tobuscus did kind of something similar. Matt actually did the little alias thing. He named himself Black Honey, but you're not hiding there, Matt. I'm letting people know where you are in there. But yeah, a lot of us are pretty identifiable. Pretty much every one of us shows up in the video itself. Now, one thing I want to mention is this video is going to be largely impression. There's going to be new info for sure, but a lot of this is stuff that you guys are probably familiar with if you've been following the expansion stuff. You've probably seen some of these areas in, say, the points of interest streams or like in articles and whatnot. So you're not going to be seeing a whole lot of crazy new stuff. You will see some new stuff in there. I will point out the new information and stuff that I learned, but it's mainly just going to be my impressions of things and how things felt to play. This video is going to go on for a little while, so if you couldn't tell by, you know, the length of the video, it'll be a little while. So when we started out, we all sat down at our demo stations and whatnot. People have been, you know, scrutinizing some of, like, my pictures and whatnot that I took at the event. Like, oh, what's that on the screen? So, it's not a login screen. The thing with the whole, like, Heart of Thorns demo or Heart of Thorns logo and all that, it's not a login screen. It's just kind of the demo opener thing. It's got, like, a reset demo button and all that. So, it's not like the old login screen is coming back to my knowledge. I can't guarantee yes or no on that, but we didn't have one. It was basically just start up the application and then it went right into the demo. So we made our characters, and of course everyone rolled Revenant. Every single person there was Revenant, and I guess I could talk a little bit about the Revenant, how it feels right now. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I've talked about how I like my warrior, and I like how it's, you know, nice and simple and straightforward, and I like the combat and whatnot, but Revenant was just a ton of fun. The Revenant was there are so many moving parts and so many cool things you can do with the Revenant, cool mechanics, and you can definitely tell that it is a newer class. You can definitely tell that a lot more design and stuff has gone into this thing, because you got the whole energy system, you got the different legend stances, you got all of the crazy effects on the scale. There's just so much stuff with just the two legends that they've got right now and the 3 weapons they've got in this demo that it's just like, it's kind of crazy. In fact, it's very crazy. But at any rate, I was messing around with the Revenant during a lot of stuff, and the hammer is a very, very good ranged weapon. It feels very good at range. It can be used in melee, of course, but it definitely benefits from being at range, like they've kind of stated. Whereas the mace and axe are very, like, in your face. In fact, with the Wyvern fight, I actually ended up swapping out from Mace Axe, which I was messing around kind of the other open area, to the hammer, because I'm like, I'm gonna die if I stick with this weapon set. Anyway, just had an absolute blast with all the stuff the Revenant can do. I will say that I think I enjoy the Malik stance a lot more than the Jala stance, simply because there's a lot of really cool support and just offensive things that you can do with that stance, and I have so many stories to tell with some of the stuff I did in the PvP section. But anyway, moving on from that, so we all got in, and when you first start with the demo, I'm not going to spoil too much stuff, because I do want those of you going to PAX to be able to kind of experience this stuff fresh. I don't want to spoil everything that happens. But basically, you go into this, like, it's almost like a personal story or like a Living World episode instance that it starts out in. You meet the characters you would expect to meet, like Marjorie and all the Destiny's Edge 2.0 people, and you meet up with Larenthir and stuff like that. And one cool thing I saw, there were 2 cool things that I saw. Other than, you know, the enemies and their mechanics and whatnot, which, by the way, there are a whole bunch of new mechanics and cool tech that they've got two things that I noticed right away, much as like people have been speculating, your character is fully voiced again. And that, it was kind of weird hearing my character speak again. I'm like, whoa, I have a voice, my character has a voice again. I haven't heard this in forever, other than, you know, the generic combat lines. But that was really cool to see, and it's, the voice actors did a really good job. You can really get immersed, you can really get into the story and the situation with the voice acting that's been done so far. It was crazy to see, it was cool to see. And the other thing I noticed, and I might actually show some footage of this in the video right now, they're introducing choice again. They're introducing choice in what you do again, and I noticed it, and they actually have like their own icons and whatnot above the characters' heads that you talk to, and I actually picked the one that was done. I picked the option that was done just off of what I would have normally picked. I didn't even like look at the other one, but apparently the other one wasn't done yet, so it wouldn't have mattered. But anyway, yeah, that was cool to see too. Just the whole fact that they are introducing choice back into the game, like meaningful choice, kind of like what you saw in the personal story. That was cool. So you do some dialogue. So if you run around, you fight new enemies, a bunch of like Mordrum Court dudes, and they've got some cool stuff. I mean, they're not just, you know, herpader come up and out attack you. They've got some crazy things they can do. Like one of them has this cool field that they throw down that actually gets larger. It's an AoE, I think, like a torment and cripple field. I don't remember what happened because I avoided it, but they throw it down and it slowly like gets bigger and bigger. So it was cool to see that. Then I got to see the break bar. That was actually a really cool mechanic. How it works in the game is pretty much exactly like you would expect, and it's interesting. It's really cool, just the possibilities that they can do with it. Like, the first guy you see with it in the demo, when he has his break bar drained, he just gets stunned for like 5 seconds, and I actually moused over this when I was messing around in the demo. It shows you what happens when that break bar fully depletes, and they have a lot of flexibility with this new break bar system, and it shows. It was definitely interesting, and it makes an even bigger difference on the Wyvern fight, where the Wyvern is about to take off. He gains a break bar. I think this has been mentioned in one of the articles, but he gains a break bar when he's getting ready to take off, and if you shut down that break bar, if you break the break bar, he comes falling right back down, and he doesn't go into his aerial phase. I guess specifically about the break bar before I move on to the next point, CCs, they've been talking about how CCs are like actually respected. The heavier hitting but longer cooldown CCs doing more to the break bar than, say, you know, headshot or whatever. That's definitely the case. I think if the hero in Stronghold uses a break bar, and spoiler, I was using Hamtastic in there. I'll get to that later, but I was able to do a lot of damage to that break bar and keep it knocked down with things like Backbreaker and Staggering Blow and stuff like that. So it was really cool to see that mechanic in action. Anyway, I guess moving on from the break bar. So you go through, you do all this kind of instance story stuff, and you mess around, you fight this, you know, boss, mini-boss, whatever you want to call it at the end. And then there's some dialogue and stuff that goes on. Again, I'm not really going to spoil a bunch of the story stuff, because you guys go into packs will get to see that. And I'm sure there are other content creators who are going to go through the whole demo. But anyway, moving on, then you get dropped into the area that you've seen in the points of interest streams. The area where, you know, you've got the sniper nest and the breachers all over the place, and, you know, the stuff that you've seen in the background in the stuff they've already revealed. And that's where there's a whole bunch of events going on and whatnot. It's you know, what you would expect. It's very busy. There's an event, there's like, I think 3 or 4 events happening all at the same time just in the demo. That's not even talking about what happens after you complete those, or the Wyvern event or anything like that. It's just, there's a lot of stuff going on. In the footage, I'll throw some of that in the footage, and we literally had everyone all over the place. All of the people who were in the demo were just up and down this hill doing events on either end, like just messing around, and it's almost like Silver Waste. There's a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of cool stuff going on. Like, I think the event I partook in was primarily, you had to like kick these choppers, these down choppers for like ordnance or like explosives or something like that, and you had to kick them so then pieces would come flying off, and then you had to go get that piece and bring it over to, I think there was like a vine or something. You shove bombs right next to it, and then once you have enough bombs, they detonate, and then the thing gets, you know, blown up and whatever. But it was just cool to see all of this stuff going on. The atmosphere is definitely there. It feels like you're in the middle of, I guess not a war zone, but like you're in the middle of like a crash site with all this crazy stuff, and you have to like, there's a whole, it's hard to really say. It was just really chaotic, but it was a lot of fun too. And we really only got to see this section. We didn't really get to see anything like with the night cycle or anything like that. I didn't do anything with the adventure. Supposedly the plant torching adventure that was previewed on that One Points of Interest stream was there, but I never even really went near it. I spawned up on the sniper's nest, and then I kind of just like glided down and started doing stuff. I was having a ton of fun like around all the bomb stuff. Not to mention we were on a timer, so it wasn't like I had the entire time to just, you know, faff about and go do whatever. But even still, I think it was available. I just never really messed around with it. So since I mentioned the glider, I guess I can talk about a little bit how that feels and some of the stuff I talked with Colin about on that. Just kind of make a comment on talking with Colin. I didn't talk with him a whole lot. I met him at that first dinner and you know, went back and forth with him a little bit, but I was kind of in the middle of talking with Matt and Neo and Liz and all of them. So it was kind of just like, go get food, and Colin was hanging out over there, so I talked with him a little bit. And then after the PvE demo, I actually talked to him a little bit about masteries and gliding and whatnot, and kind of bounced back and forth with him on some of my impressions that I gotten with the glider. It does feel kind of clunky, like what a lot of people have been saying, because you do have to fall a bit, and then you can deploy it and all that. They are aware of that. They are aware that it feels clunky. It's not like this is the final version of it. Colin was like, yeah, we want to make it feel better. We want to make it so it doesn't have that weird gap when you fall. They are aware that it feels clunky, and they're trying to figure out how they make it better. So don't worry, guys. Gliding isn't going to be this clunky thing in the end. They are trying to make it feel as good as it can be. With the masteries... The masteries they've got their own cool little interface that, when they were talking about the tray with the whole mastery system, it is kind of like that. You actually click on your experience bar and it brings up all the masteries that are available to you in that region or whatever. I'll probably put some footage of that in the video right now. But yeah, you click your experience bar and it just brings up this, you know, tray of masteries. I did look around at some of the other ones other than gliding. In the B-roll footage, you're just going to see, you know, stuff about the glider. But there was also something about, like, the Itzel. And you're going to be able to, at least with its current iteration, you can do things like you unlock more vendors. You actually get access to, like, a city of some sort. Like, maybe like a Mersat city or something that's, like, run by its... I don't know. I was just gleaning information from a description, but I remember specifically that you've gained access to merchants in some city, or you've gained access to some city or something like that. So what that means, that wasn't even in the demo, but I saw the mastery that had the description of that. And there was some other stuff about like finding hidden areas and stuff like that. But really, I think the only one that had any impact, the only mastery line that had any impact on what we were doing in the demo was the gliding line. And I'll probably slow it down in the footage, but there's a whole bunch of stuff about, like, you know, stuff they've already mentioned, like where you can make it so you can fly for longer, or you can deploy faster, or stuff like that. And the last mastery in this line really caught my attention. I forgot what it specifically said, but basically it tipped me off to the idea that maybe we'll be able to just, like, you know, just double jump and then immediately deploy our glider no matter where we are. And that really got me excited. When I specifically mentioned that to Colin, he's like, we're still playing with it, we're still messing around, and you can tell they are definitely still in the middle of iterating things, they're still designing things. So this demo is just that, a demo. They're still doing all sorts of changes. But he was talking about how they're still playing around with stuff in the glider mastery line and all the mastery lines, and that the whole double jumping thing could very well become a thing. We don't know. Anyway, getting back to the whole demo itself and demo progression. So we were doing all these events, all this crazy stuff, and I think after a certain number of them are done, all of the Mordrum retreat, all of the vines retreat and whatnot, and then a charcopter comes down, and there's a little, you know, event notification that says board the charcopter to fight the wyvern or something like that. And what it does is it actually puts you in that area with the wyvern, and it's this kind of enclosed off area with just the boss platform and the spawning platform. So a bunch of us get there, and as I was mentioning, people kind of trickled in and whatnot. I saw a few. I saw like the dev who was recording this, and I think another person already down there fighting it. So I'm like, well, time for me to jump down there. So you do actually jump and glide, as you've seen on, say, POI and all that. You jump and glide to get down there, and then when you land, you are in the fight with the wyvern. Just to give a general impression of this fight, first off, it was not easy. This guy is not easy to kill. We spent a good, I don't know, 12 minutes just fighting the wyvern. And he has all sorts of mechanics. He is not, you know, just your typical auto attack to death or cheese out boss that you kind of see in the game right now. This dude, he felt like a raid boss. He legit felt like something you would see as a raid boss in another game. And it was nuts. It was not. I had to pay attention the entire time. There was so many mechanics going on. He's got things like this crazy fire breath that just, you know, lights up, I think, like the entire half of the space in front of him with fire. He has these fire lines. He's got fireballs. He's got this crazy, like, wing swoop attack that, like, it'll send you flying. It's like a wing gust that if you don't have stability, you're going to get tossed. And there were actually, I think at the very start of the fight, I got tossed off the edge and I had to do the whole glider thing and do an updraft and get back on the platform. But, like, you have to be paying attention. He has very good tells, very distinct tells for when he's going to do it. But, you know, since we weren't used to fighting him, everyone was getting tossed all over the place or everyone was, you know, getting hit by things. But anyway, we didn't know what we were doing because we were all playing Revenants and we'd never fought this thing before. But anyway, he felt like a very engaging encounter and I really liked that. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And I may have mentioned this earlier, but when I talked with Colin about this after our demo session for the PvE, I'm like, this is the most fun I've had in PvE in a very long time. And he's like, yeah, this is a warm-up fight. This isn't even scratching the surface of the stuff we've got for you later in the expansion. I'm like, well, I'm definitely interested. But anyway, I liked what they did with how the kind of fight environment went. Like, this was an enemy that was difficult to kill and had a lot of mechanics, and there was a lot of kind of the puzzle solving aspect of it, and it did feel like it was instanced, but it actually wasn't. It was open world. This was something that was accessible by anyone in the area who had boarded that chopper or whatever. And the chopper did have a timer. It wasn't just like, you know, anyone could join it all the time. It was, I think you had like 4-minute window to get on this thing and get in here. So it's almost like you have this open world accessibility, but when you're actually there, it's like say a raid fight. And it's not like you can just constantly keep feeding people this thing to this event because eventually that access closes off. But anyway, getting back to the actual fight itself, we eventually had everyone in the demo get into the zone and everyone kind of, you know, gradually trickled in down to the fight with the gliders and whatnot. And that's where it really got that big feel, that kind of raid fight feel, is when we had all, I think, 18 of us down there fighting this thing all at once. I mean, it was funny because everyone was a Revenant, so you saw Revenant spells flying all over the place, and you saw, like, the Jealous Road ability flying out periodically. You had people using hammers and maces. Blue actually made a comment during the fight where bringing a mace to this was not a good idea and stuff like that. You'll probably see some, you know, just random quips throughout the fight that were just, you know, people being silly and whatnot. Toby and me were back and forthing some silly stuff. But anyway, you had all these effects going on. You had everyone trying to do support and whatnot. I actually tried out the Malik stance in there as well to, like, pull things like blinds and vulnerability and burning off of everyone and throw them back on the boss. And it felt like I was being supportive and also contributing to the fight just through the mechanics of the Revenant. Again, I'll kind of go into more of the Malik stance stuff later and whatnot, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is this fight was a lot of fun, and this was the first time I had this much fun in PvE in a very long time. Fractals has come kind of close, but this was the type of stuff that I was looking for, that I have been looking for. And if this is just, you know, the warm-up stuff, I'm really excited to see what we'll get. But anyway, so we fight the wyvern for, you know, 12 minutes, as I've said, and we're doing all our stuff. People are flying all over the place, flying off the edge. I think I died at least once to this thing. I know a number of other people died a few times. We had people rezzing, we had people using like the Jealous Elite that made everyone, you know, stone and reduce the damage they took. You had the hammer stuff, the whole upkeep things going on. You had people in like the Malik stance, moving conditions around, resistance. It was chaotic, but it was also really fun. And I guess the highlight of this fight came when we all realized the break bar showed up when he was about to fly away, and we all realized that the break bar was there. And for the Revenant on the Jealous stance, he has that chain ability that's been previewed where it does the taunt and the slow and whatnot. Well, that chain actually affects the break bar. I think it does like maybe 15% of it or 20% of the bar in progress if you use the chain on the boss. So what happened was eventually it kind of clicked. Like we saw some people using the chain on him to hit him when he was about to take off, but no one had really paid attention to it until this one specific moment, and it was easily my favorite moment of the demo. We all realize what was going on with that break bar, and as he's taking off, you just see like 5, 6, 7 chains fly up to the wyvern, and then that hits the break bar and he comes crashing back down. And it was just one of the most epic things I've seen in the game to date. It was just that sense of we worked together, we coordinated, we learned, and we just got a massive advantage on the boss. And so we ripped him back down. He stays stunned for like 5 seconds, and we just wailed on the dude. And as the fight progressed, we did that more and more. You just saw all the chains grabbing him and ripping him back down. It was a really cool thing to see. I'm really excited. Like this stuff, the stuff we saw during the demo, as I kind of mentioned vaguely while I was at the event and after, it's made me even more excited for the stuff they're doing. So anyway, we go through the fight, we continue doing it, and again, you guys will probably be seeing this fight from start to finish over the course of this video. So we brought down the boss. We had a whole bunch of cheering. It felt really good. It was one of those fights where you actually feel good for succeeding, because it was challenging. It wasn't a fight that we kind of just rolled over. And we actually did end up fighting the wyvern a second time, sort of, during the demo. What happened was, I think there was like 3 minutes left on my demo session or whatever, or maybe like 2 minutes or something like that, and the chopper axis became available again and the boss had respawned. So we jumped in there, and I think when I actually got to the boss, there was like a minute and a half or so left on my demo session, and I think it was myself and Blue were the first ones to get down there, or one of the first like 5 or so, and I type in all caps, "Got a minute and a half! We got this!" And Blue's like, "Let's do this!" So the demo ended. I was blown away. I was just absolute blast. We kind of had some time to just, you know, talk with people about our impressions and whatnot. I went over, and this is when I talked to Colin about like the gliding and the masteries and stuff like that. And so after a little bit of a break period, we went and sat down again, and John Corpening, one of the big guys overlooking like the competitive stuff, he gave kind of an overview of Stronghold. If you've seen like my thank you video or some of the stuff when I was tweeting at the event, that picture where it was you had John standing up there and Joe and Blue in the seats in front of me and had Stronghold on it, that was the presentation. He just did like a quick overview of what Stronghold was about for, you know, Joe and Tobuscus and Jesse and everyone who was there but wasn't necessarily familiar with all the stuff that they had revealed so far. So they gave an overview of Stronghold, and then after that was done, we went back and did the PvP demo. And this was, I think we did like maybe an hour or 40 minutes of Stronghold. I think we got we did 3 matches. And so Blue and I had this really good idea, and Matt as well. We were going to make a pre-made. It was Blue, Matt, and we got Joe and Jesse on the team as well, and myself. And so I think we were the only party, the only full party at that demo, because I don't really recall seeing the same teams fighting us each time. I think I remember seeing people just kind of, you'd have, I think Donna and Rihanna were in a party together, but everyone else, it kind of cycled through people. So I think we were the only like pre-made team, and it was kind of hilarious because we won our first 2 matches. There was a woman sitting between Matt and me. I was right next to Jesse. Then I think between Jesse and Blue was Donna, and then right next to Blue on the other side was Joe. And I could actually see Joe from between the computers. So there was that. So we had, a little bit of, communication advantage, you could say. And so during the matches, we were able to shout stuff back and forth. I would lean back and ask Matt, like, hey, how are the door breakers and whatnot? And he'd give me updates, and we'd all give each other updates and whatnot. Blue and I were shouting back and forth with updates as well. It was funny and cool at the same time because we were kind of getting an unfair advantage against all the other people in the demo, but PvP, especially when it's a new mode. Speaking of which, I switched from the Revenant. I played my Warrior. Rihanna had the same idea, as did Blue and Matt. Blue played a Mesmer. Matt played as Guardian. I played Warrior. And we played the stuff we were familiar with. I used the Hamtastic build as much as can be used in PvP. And good news, this is something I was really happy to find out. It worked like a charm. Hamtastic build is amazing for the Stronghold game type because it's really good for killing like door breakers and archers. It's really good for getting around the map to different objectives. It does a lot of damage. I actually used it to take down and solo their hero because during one of the matches, the other team had spawned their hero and it was heading towards our base, but no one defended it. So what I did is I actually went over there, and heroes have a break bar that when you fully break it, they get stunned for like 5 seconds. And since the Hamtastic build has so much CC, I was able to keep that guy from getting anywhere near our base. And it was just really cool to see that my favorite build, a build that I like running in World of the World, but unfortunately doesn't really work in Conquest, worked amazingly for this new mode. Going off of that, Stronghold feels a lot like World of the World in just kind of the freeform kind of PvP that you can have. It's still very much like PvP, and this was something that I was really happy to see too, was despite all of the NPCs running around, it still very much feels like PvP. It still very much feels like your focus is the other team, and the players have this major impact. I actually talked with Hugh a lot on this, where it really does feel like the players are the focus, even with, the door breakers and the guards and all that stuff running around. Overall, I was just really happy to see that I could run my favorite build in this new PvP mode, and it was PvP, not World of the World. But anyway, going away from that, Stronghold, it's pretty much everything that they've shown. They've pretty much demonstrated, door breakers, archers, all those mechanics. We did 3 matches. We won the first 2 because we were pre-made, however. The third one, they actually brought out the devs. They brought out the devs to fight us, and Doc got game. He got lucky. He was actually on that dev team, but you had Grouch, you had, I think John was on there. I don't remember all the devs that were there, but I was informed after the match that the team we fought in the third setup was a team of devs, and they kind of ran us over. But it was just fun overall. It was cool. Even with the loss, it was a lot of fun. You had, everyone was able to contribute. Like, I was really impressed with how well everyone's build really did actually contribute to the mode itself without there really being any wrong way to go about it. Like with Conquest, if you run certain builds in Conquest, they're not as effective because you have to be on a point, and certain classes have advantages over others, and all that fun junk. But anyway, we were able to run what we wanted, and it was perfectly fine. And you even had, guys like Joe and Jesse who were not as well practiced in the game one, and even they were contributing. Like Jesse was on the Treb most of the time, and he was blowing up buildings to, get him out of the way and give us line of sight. He was interrupting supply. He was doing all sorts of stuff, and all he really had to do was sit on the Treb. And yeah, say like Joe, who was, Joe was kind of lost, admittedly, running around, but like he and I would push the enemy keep, and we would do a whole bunch of damage, and you know, we'd get in skirmishes and we'd come out on top and all that stuff. And even for people who are new to PvP or not as well practiced, the game mode still works really well. It's still something that people can kind of just jump in and learn quickly. Admittedly, the first match is going to be really confusing. Like, it was a new map. No one knew where to go. And it was like, I think the door breakers are over here, and I think the enemy keeps... Like, the first match, just like with anything, it's a little confusing, but I really, really like how the map is designed. And this is another thing I was talking with Hugh about, where the defending lane is always on your right, and the attacking lane is always on your left. So no matter which team you're on, that's the case. So you know where you need to go no matter where you are on the map. You can tell, okay, this is where the defenders are, this is where the attackers are, this is where the supply is, done, done, and done. And once you kind of figure that out, and it took like maybe half the game, half of the first match for me to kind of realize that, it's very, very intuitive after that point. And like the hero summons are very like intense. Like, you have to, there's this whole, it's almost like what you see with, say, the Sanctuary buff or the Tranquility buff on Temple of the Silent Storm right now, where you've just got this kind of, it changes up how the dynamic of the map works, of the match. And actually, I'm kind of channeling Hugh when I say this, because this is stuff he said exactly to me, where it changes up the dynamic of the match. And it was just cool to see. You had this really cool, there was this really cool play that Blue and I, we had a coordinated hero spawn where Blue went in for the channel, and I think Rihanna and Donna were coming to intercept us, or like they were coming down their attacking lane or defending lane, whatever. And I held them off while Blue got his hero summon off, and it was really cool to see. And I think there were a couple of times where we got two heroes, and we just absolutely ran right through their defensive lines. There was another match where I was running down a lane. I think it was our defending lane, and I looked down on the minimap, and I see just this line of NPC icons, because all the NPCs have icons like the door breakers and the archers, and I just see this massive train of archers and door breakers along, I think, our attacking lane. I'm like, alright, I don't remember who I was talking to, but it was just hilarious to see all of those NPCs just, you know, cruising along, because, you know, someone was just dumping supply in there. Now, there was one of the matches I actually switched over to Revenant because I wanted to test it around PvP. I want to see how it worked and felt in PvP. And first off, it's just as fun there as it was in PvE, but even more so. Like, this is where I kind of got a better feel for the stances, for the Jalos and Malik stances. And there are just a lot of really cool things you can do with the Revenant. Really, really fun, and in some cases hilarious plays you can make with the Revenant. Like, the two that immediately come to mind, they were in two completely different matches. One of them was, it was the start of the game, we were all kind of rushing towards the middle, and that's something I noticed a lot during the matches, is a lot of people would rush to the center where the two supply piles were, and start, you know, gathering supply, and there'd be big team fights that would happen right at the start of the game. But anyway, one of the matches, a whole bunch of people did that. I think it was myself and maybe two other people on my team, but like 4 of the other team came in, and they all started channeling supply. And I was using the hammer on the Revenant at the time, and the number 5 does that whole, you know, spirit hammer thing that comes out of nowhere and, you know, smashes the ground, does a big stun. Yeah, I got to drop that on 4 people and see a bunch of crit numbers come up, and I'm like, this is too good. I think I exclaimed something like, the spirit of the hamtastic compels you, or something like that. It was hilarious. I shut down their entire team for one moment, or most of the team, and it was just this really funny thing to see. The other funny moment that I remember off the top of my head was, it was me versus Blue. And we were, I think this is one of the afternoon matches, and so I was getting to their inner gate, like just the one that's just before you get to the Lord Room, and I think Blue and maybe like a Necromancer, someone with a lot of conditions, they both had a lot of condition application. They were outside of the keep, defending, I think, against some of our door breakers and archers, and I was there on the Revenant. So running around doing whatnot, and all of a sudden I get Condi bombed. I just get like all of these Condis lining up my bar. But I was in the Malik stance at the time, and there's that one, I think it's the number 7 they talked about, where it like absorbs all of the conditions from around you, and it gives you that resistance boon for each one or whatever, or like, I don't know, there was a bunch of trait stuff involved that I don't know all the Revenant traits, but I used that ability, and I had all of the, I don't think there was anyone actually around me other than maybe the NPCs, but I pulled all of the conditions from the NPCs onto me as well, and I had a full bar of conditions, you know, like what you would see when a necromancer, you know, spites you. But at the same time, I had the resistance boon for, you know, a decent while. And I noticed Blue was standing, you know, right there. So what I did, and this was after I learned about all the fun with the Malik's Elite, where it pulses the conditions, I ran over to Blue and popped that Elite while my bar was lined with these conditions. I immediately see his bar lined with conditions, and he just drops like a rock. And I'm sitting there, you know, all fine and dandy. I had my resistance boons up. I'm hitting number 7 a few times, so I keep it up. And just watching Blue's health just drop, and his reaction when he saw all the conditions come flying up, it was just hilarious. Because that Malik stance, that Elite, pulses all of the conditions you have to others every 3 seconds. So it wasn't just, you know, I lined his bar with conditions once and it was done. No, I pulsed those conditions on him several times, and he couldn't do anything about it because, you know, Mesmers don't have a lot of condition removal. It was just hilarious to see. There was one more moment that was cool. It wasn't really anything specific in the middle of the game, but it was, you know, just one of those cool things that happened towards the end of the match. We had this crazy Lord Room fight, and I think I was like the only one in there. This was on one of the games I was on my Warrior, and the Lords, they go down. They don't die when they lose all their health. They go down like a player would, and you have to either stomp them or, you know, cleave them to death unless the other team, you know, reses them. They act just like a player as far as that's concerned. And so there was all this stuff going on, and all this craziness, because I had a whole bunch of NPCs with me, and people were getting all sorts of confused and whatnot. The Lord goes down, and I do a perfect, you know, get the stomp going, pop balance stance right at the right moment, secure stomp, and win the game. It was absolutely fantastic. I had a ton of fun with that. Like, Stronghold is just it's a fun game mode. I think people are gonna like it. I think people are gonna have a lot of fun with it. I know I did. Now, I guess those were my overall impressions of everything in the demo. There were a couple things that were like related that weren't really specific to anything that I still want to give you guys info on. I guess the first one is just kind of like a funny story thing, but it will actually help them a lot. During one of the Stronghold games, I found a bug for Carl and Roy. So like the Revenant Malik's number 7. No, sorry, not the number 7. The number 9, you do like a leap to a specific spot, and it shadow steps everyone away. And how they want it to work, it's supposed to shadow step enemies away from that central point where you land, and just do that until the field goes away. Well, apparently, I found a bug where whenever you do that, it doesn't pulse them away from the center, it pulses them behind you. Like, no matter what I did, no matter where I landed or where I intercepted the opponents when I dropped that field on them, they would teleport behind me. And, like, I even did some stuff where I, like, turned around when I used it and whatnot, and they would always appear behind me. And so, I think at the time, this was in an afternoon session, I think Carl was standing right behind me at the time, like, hey, Carl, I think I found a bug. And I showed it to him, he's like, oh, wow, yeah, that is a bug. Good catch. So, yeah, it was cool being able to do that, just, like, find these things that will eventually help, you know, the game be better and whatnot. It was just a funny bug, because I think I was using it to try and stop some door breakers in our defending lane from getting them. I'm like, okay, I'll just drop this shadow step field, and I'll just keep pushing them back until it's there. And then I did it, and I'm like, where'd they go? Like, they just did, like, my camera was zoomed in a way where I couldn't see behind me per se, but I dropped it and they just disappeared. I'm like, where did they go? And I look behind me, I'm like, oh, I don't think that's how that's supposed to work. And so then the other thing, this is kind of more general information regarding the Revenant's utility skills. in the footage, you've probably noticed that you can swap things, or those little swap arrows are above each of the abilities for the Revenant. Now, you can click on those and they will bring up a little menu, but here's how they work with the Revenant. It's not so much that you have like several skills that you can choose from within each stance, but it allows you to rearrange them. I think that's the primary reason for them being swappable, even though there's only one set per stance. It's because you can swap them to whatever you want them to be. So like you can make the road skill on number 9, you can make the hammer skin on number 8, and the chain taunt thing on number 7. It allows you to customize, but the number of skills you actually have available to you are still just those 3. The heal being swappable is probably so you can do racial stuff. Same with the elite. You can swap your stances, your legends, just like you could with any of those skills. I clicked on it, and it's in development, so it says like profession, mechanic skills, or something like that. You can slot them just like you would with utility skills or anything like that. But right now it's just Jalis and Malix. There aren't any other legends in there. One more thing regarding something I was looking for, but I didn't have any information on it until we actually got there, or we're testing. This is for the warrior balance stance in the demo, and since the event, we have gotten a little more information on the stability changes and whatnot, but I tried testing, like seeing how many stacks of stability balance stance gave. It still only gave 1 in the demo, but I don't think that'll be what it is in the final, iteration, final balance, because Carl actually posted on the forums, I think yesterday, saying how Doliac Signet is going to give like 10 stacks for 8 seconds or stuff like that. The numbers can be played with, and I mentioned it to, I think, either Carl or Hugh while I was there. I'm like, so I wanted to look at how many stacks he gave balance stance. It only gave 1, and they were saying how they actually didn't do any balancing like that for the demo. It used all of the existing balances for the professions. I was running around in PvP with 1 stack of stability whenever I used, balance stance. It made me a little sad when I tried going for big fights and whatnot, but I only had to deal with it for 2 matches. But anyway, it was kind of funny to see. Now, there is going to be an interview that I did with Josh, aka Grouch, and Hugh coming out sometime soon. I'm not sure what they're going to do with that footage or when I'm going to get that. That'll be a separate video. But anyway, I think that's going to be it for the stuff I've got to tell you guys. This video is already really long. I apologize for the long duration, for those who are still hanging out, still listening. There may have been some things that I forgot. I don't think so. I think I gave pretty much the entire dump of information that I learned. I think I got the new stuff out there, all my impressions and whatnot. Again, this is going to be the demo you'll see at PAX, so you'll be able to get your hands on this if you're going out there. For those who aren't going out at PAX, you can enjoy some of the footage I've got here. I'm sure there are going to be a whole bunch of other content creators in the community like Matt, Wooden Potatoes. I'm sure Peachy and Bogot are going to have stuff on the whole demo for you guys. So I'm more than certain that there will be footage of the entire demo from someone out there for you guys who are interested in getting the full details on every single thing that happens in the demo. I didn't want to spoil some of the stuff before people went out to PAX, just in case they didn't want to see some of the story stuff too soon. But that's going to be it for this video. I figured this could fit kind of the big meaty video that I've been wanting to put out for a good while. This was a really fun event. It was really cool, not just meeting everyone, but getting to play this new stuff with everyone and having all the fun. That wyvern fight with everyone pulling him down with a chain, just a highlight of my trip. One of the highlights of my trip. It was just absolutely amazing. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. Thanks everyone for hanging. Thanks everyone for listening, watching, whatever. I'm really happy I was able to bring you guys this information. It's still kind of weird for me because this is a Saturday night while the embargo is still on, but this video will be released on Tuesday, so you guys, it won't be there anymore, and I'll be able to actually talk to you guys about it. But anyway, enough rambling about me. I think I've tried ending it like 3 times, and then I continued. Thanks for listening, everyone. I will see you around the stream or in the next video, or some of you at PAX. So, with that, thanks for listening, and take care.
Come on!
Bram!
Get back here!